Hello and welcome. My name is Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind the Country Chic Cottage. Now, this might look very strange, but this is the new HTVRont Auto Tumbler Press, the A200. You purchase the tumbler press, it already has an insert in it for like straight tumblers, and then you can purchase another insert for 40-ounce tumblers. So I'm going to put this machine to the test. I'm going to make several projects over here, show you the results, so you can decide whether this tumbler press is the one for you or not. Now, this design is very unique. With the inserts, they're super easy to swap out. And the insides of these inserts are metal. Then you use a mat around your tumbler before you put it inside. So if you've ever seen a traditional tumbler press, you'll know that there's sort of a flexible heating element. And that heating element can bubble, can wrinkle. It smells really bad when you heat it up. You don't have any of those problems with this press, which makes this unique design one that I really wanted to test out. So let's take a look at the press itself and what comes with it first. So with the tumbler press itself, you'll get some documentation, heat-resistant tape, heat-resistant gloves, as well as 2 tumbler heat press mats. Now, these are 2 different thicknesses, and I will show you how to use these with the tumbler press. With the tumbler press itself, there really isn't any setup. You are just ready to plug it in and press. However, you can get another insert for the inside, so let me show you that insert. So this insert comes as one piece, and it is actually for a 40-ounce tumbler that has this shape here. And it does also come with a specific heat press mat for this tumbler shape. So the insert that comes installed inside of the press is for straight-sided tumblers. These are extremely easy to change out, first of all. So there is an orange handle on the side, and literally if I just pull that, it will unlock and slide out of the press. So I can slide this one out. It is the straight-sided version. There is a little graphic on the side that shows you it's the straight-sided version, and the 40-ounce has a shaped graphic in this area, so you can tell the difference. So we can set this one to the side. If we wanted to do a 40-ounce tumbler, we would just take the 40-ounce insert, and all you do is line the 2 rails up at the top, and then this slides right in, and you should hear a click as I press this in. Once it clicks, it is ready to go. So that is how easy it is to change out these inserts. Now I am going to do straight-sided first, so I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. I did want to point out that the inside of this surface for both of these is just a metal plate. That's why you have these rubber mat inserts. But what this means is that you don't have anything here to wrinkle or buckle like other tumbler presses on the market. I really do think that this is an ingenious design, and being able to switch this out so easily also makes this very versatile. So let me go ahead and put the straight-sided one in, and let's put it to the test. So for the tumbler press out of the box, the outer diameter range you're going to be able to press is 2.9 to 3.1 inches, and the maximum height of the tumbler is 10.2 inches. So out of the box, you can only do tumblers without handles. You can add the 40-ounce accessory that I showed you, and that will allow you to do the 40-ounce tumbler only, and you do need to remove the handle and just have those tabs. So I went ahead and plugged this one up. Just press the power button to turn it on, and then you'll just need to adjust the time and temperature for whatever blank you're using. So to adjust the temperature, we'll just go ahead and hit the temperature button and press the plus or minus to move it up and down. Press temperature again to set the temperature. The next thing you want to set is the time, which is the clock button below the temperature. Just hit that button again, plus or minus button to set the time. Press it again to set it. And you can also set the pressure on this one. So this button below the power button, press it, and you can increase or decrease the pressure on this machine. And again, press that button again to set the pressure. So 155 pounds is the maximum pressure and 45 pounds is the minimum. Looks like the time will go up to 999 seconds. and the temperature will go up to 390 degrees Fahrenheit. You can also use this settings button over here to set a few presets. So there are several already set, A, B, C, and D, so you can use those if you would like. So once you get this set, you'll go ahead and preheat the press. Once you put it inside to start the process, you do have the R button over here. I won't press that right now because we want to go ahead and print our designs and prepare our blanks. I did want to note that they sent a HTVRont 40-ounce tumbler with that insert. One of the questions I have is, am I going to have to purchase an HTVRont 40-ounce tumbler every time I want to use this? Because I have a couple of different brands of 40 ounces beside this, and you can probably tell like all of these look slightly different. You know, the tapers are slightly different, the sizes are slightly different. So is this press going to work even if I don't use the HTVRont version? So it's one of the things I'm going to test in this video because I am concerned because there are a variety of sizes when it comes to 40-ounce tumblers when you order them. Whatever tumbler you are going to use in this, it is going to be very important to measure it. So measure the diameter several different places up and down the tumbler. Be sure to measure the height. In the case of any 40-ounce you're using, be sure to measure each area to get it correct when you resize your image. First, we're going to make a design for a 20-ounce tumbler, and we're just going to open up Canva and do an 8.5 by 11 inch sheet of paper. And I went ahead and uploaded my designs. So I'm going to pick one of those designs, rotate it, and this design is repeatable, so I'm going to make a few copies of this. And I'm just going to make a full-size sheet of this pattern and cut the pattern to fit the tumbler. So this is one option, depending on if you want to measure the tumbler and resize in Canva or print a full-size sheet. You do want to download as a PDF for print and CMYK. Then you'll print on your sublimation printer using sublimation ink on sublimation paper. You can also add your design to your Canva template and size it exactly to the size that you need for whatever mug or tumbler that you're using. And then once again, download and print. Now for the 40-ounce tumbler, I am going to link to a Canva template below, and you can drag and drop your images into this Canva template. Now you can choose to use a design for that middle portion or leave that off, just depending on what you want to do. So I did mention that each 40-ounce tumbler is going to be different. So I do want to encourage you to measure your tumbler and resize these. Use the position feature. Make sure that these are the right sizes. And even on this last one, you can, squeeze it or resize it to make sure that it is approximately the size of your tumbler. Now, you can trim these more once you print them, but you definitely don't want to print them too small or anything like that. So be sure to measure your tumblers and get them as close as possible within the program before downloading and printing. So I did want to note that I made a Canva template for those 40-ounce tumblers. However, you can use the Lock-Lick software from HTVRont, and it has a very specific template just for their 40-ounce tumblers that will allow you to get an exact size easily. So if you were going to use the HTVRont tumbler, highly recommend downloading the Lock-Lick software and using the templates within that software to print your sublimation prints. Then you'll print your sublimation prints, sublimation ink on sublimation paper with the sublimation printer. You do want to mirror these before printing. And then you'll want to trim these to size. Now, you can use a paper cutter, you can use a pair of scissors, but you just want to get these as close to the correct size as you can. And for the ones who use a template, you might just use scissors to trim around those. I go ahead and add everything to the tumbler ahead of time, just kind of see if it's the right size. Because let's be honest, sometimes I do print the incorrect size when I'm printing these. So I'm just going to make sure that everything is approximately the right size before I even start wrapping the tumbler. No matter which tumbler you're wrapping, process is going to be roughly the same. So first we want to lint roll it to clean it. Then I like to take the sublimation print, flip it over, and on one of the short edges, add a long piece of tape. This is for the overlap. So I'll just add this long piece of tape along one end, and then trim that with a pair of scissors. Then I like to take the tumbler, put it top side down, take the print and put it on the table. This makes sure that I have the print all the way to the top and gives me a really nice edge on the top. Then you want to wrap the print around, and the edge where I have my tape goes on the bottom. The edge where there's no tape goes over the top. I'm just going to make sure everything is straight, then take tape and pull the seam very tightly. I do have a full video on how to make tumblers to minimize the seams, and I will link to that in the description below this video. It has a ton of great taping techniques for you, so if you want to check out that video, I think it'll be super helpful. Once I'm done taping, I do make sure that I go over the seam really well with a scraper, as well as sort of press down and roll on the top and bottom, just to make sure everything is stuck well and really tight. Once I've done that, then this is ready for the press. Now, I usually add protective paper around the outside just to protect my press from any ink blowout. This press did not recommend that, so I'm gonna try it without it. Hopefully I won't regret that and get any ink on the inside of my press. So this same taping process I repeated 2 more times, one of which for a glass can. I did want to note for the sublimation print for the glass can, I printed on the same sheet of sublimation paper twice to get more ink and hopefully a brighter result. And then finally my 40 ounce here, I did the best I could. I do feel like this whole situation here is hard to tape, but I did add a print around this edge here. I do feel like maybe I left a few gaps as I was taping. We'll see how it turns out. The background on this one is light, so I don't think the gaps will matter, but if we can see them, it's most likely my taping job here. So let's start and see how to use this press to press these. Okay, I'm going to do the 20 ounce skinny tumbler first, and I have the heat press set to 390 degrees Fahrenheit, 240 seconds, and 60 pounds of pressure, and it's heating up. The correct insert is inside. Now this insert came with 2 different wraps. Now these are 2 different thicknesses, and it does say right on them what the thickness is. So it says to use the 4mm thickness, which is the thicker one for this type of tumbler. So all you are going to do is to wrap this tumbler up with this mat before you put this inside. So you are probably going to want heat-resistant gloves. This mat is going to get extremely hot, and I will link to a video from my friend Ashley Falco, who was testing this press, and she had this mat after it came out of the press very, very hot. She set it on top, and it melted the top of this press. So go watch her video. Do not make that mistake. Do not put anything on the top of this press. So I have my heat resistant mat here. For when everything comes out, I'm going to put it on the heat resistant mat. Okay, so this is heated up now, and we're gonna work this mat into here along with the tumbler. You wanna make sure the tumbler's completely covered and that this goes all the way inside. Definitely have your heat resistant gloves on. All right, and once that's inside, I'm gonna press the R button to start everything. And this is going to close up. And now you can watch it heat. Now this does look completely closed, so hopefully it will get all the way around the tumbler. That's one thing I'm nervous about with this one. So I used the thicker mat with this version. This thinner 2mm mat would be for like a 30 ounce straight tumbler. So something with a larger diameter, you would need the thinner mat. So once that's done, it's gonna open up. Now, I did expect some type of rotation or something while it was heating and nothing happened. So now I'm just going to, you definitely need your heat resistant gloves. I think I'm gonna take it out the other way here. And I'm going to set that on a heat resistant mat. And now that mat is still inside there and I want to remove it and it is very hot, again, set that on a heat resistant mat. All right, so now I want to do my glass tumbler. I am going to use the same 4mm mat for this one. I set it at 390 degrees Fahrenheit, 330 seconds, 110 pounds. I'm going to attempt to wrap this in the mat that is still very hot. One thing I'm learning is to not put the seam of the mat with this opening. So put it, you know, seam to the side or seam side down, and it will go in a little bit easier. All right, so once I have that in, again, I'm gonna press the R button to press. Everything looks good. So while that one is pressing, I'm gonna go ahead and remove the sublimation print from this first one. I'm hoping that I did it right. This is my absolute first press with this machine, and I'm hoping it turned out well. This looks so good. Like, seriously, the entire tumbler looks good. Even the seam looks good. I really love the way the 20 ounce turned out. Once this one's done, I'm gonna go ahead and remove it as well. And again, very, very hot, and you'll want to put that on a heat resistant mat. I'm actually gonna let this one cool before I remove it. I want as much of the ink to sublimate onto this glass as possible. I am looking into the inside, and it does look like it's sublimated well, but we'll let it cool and then remove the paper. So I would turn this off and unplug it before changing out the insert. Now, I let this cool before changing my insert. If you don't allow it to cool, be sure to wear heat resistant gloves, as this piece will be very hot when you take it out. Then once again, you're just going to line the rails up at the top and push the new one into place. Then I'm gonna go ahead and allow this to heat up for the 40 ounce tumbler. So I'm gonna go with 390 degrees Fahrenheit, 190 seconds, and 135 pounds of pressure for the 40 ounce. And in the meantime, I can go ahead and remove the print from the glass tumbler and take a look at the results. This actually did a really good job with the glass tumbler, and we will take a closer look at the results in a minute. Just a reminder that the 40 ounce tumbler will only go in one way, and this is not the correct direction. So I will need to flip this around and insert the tumbler from this side. So the tabs are on this side of the tumbler, and I can go ahead and wrap this insert around. And the opening of the wrap will be where the tabs are located, and the tabs will go up when you insert it into the press. Once this is heated up, I'm going to insert this so the small end will go in first from this side, tabs up. And you do want to make sure on this one, we are going to make sure to push it until it stops, because you want it to be all the way in to that smaller area. And then once we have it pushed in, go ahead and press the R to sublimate. Once it's done, it's going to open up, and I'm going to remove it. And I am going to slightly peek at this one, because this is the one I'm nervous about whether it's going to work or not. It does look okay. So I think I might put this in for a few more seconds. It looks okay, but I just think it could do for a few more seconds, especially on that middle area, that middle tapered area. So I'm gonna go with about 90 more seconds. I'm just gonna push the R button again to manually stop it. And then I'm gonna pull this out. Now, once again, everything needs to go on a heat resistant mat, including this insert piece, which is extremely hot. Okay, moment of truth. Let's see if this did a good job or not. I'm just gonna peel back all of the tape and all of the sublimation print. So I made a 20 ounce skinny tumbler, a glass can, and I did do a couple of different 40 ounce tumblers. So it will come with an HTVRont brand sublimation 40 ounce tumbler, and I did another brand that I had on hand as well to see if they both worked great. So starting with the 20 ounce skinny tumbler, seriously, this one looks so good. Even the seam looks great. I was super happy with the results on this. The colors look great. The sublimation looks great. I really like this machine for this skinny tumbler. Then I moved to the glass can version. This one also worked great. I did do a double print, which I usually do for glass. So I did do that for this one. And I did let it cool before I removed that sublimation print. So I got as much ink as possible on this. And the seam also looks really good. So everything about this one looked great as well. Now these were both with the insert that comes with the heat press itself. So I will say that you need to find things that are the right diameter for this. So it'll do 20 ounce and 30 ounce of the straight sided metal tumblers. And then you would need to find glass tumblers that fit within that size restriction. So things that are straight sided and fit within the diameter restrictions will work with the insert that comes with it. Then I also got the 40 ounce insert as well, and this tumbler came with that insert. So I sublimated both of these. So the one that came with it, so this is the HTVRont brand of tumbler. It looks really good all the way around. The only area I had issue with was this tapered area around the middle. It ghosted a little bit, so just not perfect pressure, or I didn't have the print down on there well. And then also, because of the tabs, this does not close all the way around. I put the handle on here to see how much of the seam that the handle would block. Because my seam at the bottom looks great. It looks perfect. But as I move up this tumbler, the seam does not look great where these tabs are. And you can notice it at the top. You notice it a little under the handle, and then I would notice it under the handle. So while this isn't a huge deal probably, do know that it doesn't get a perfect seam that I've seen in this handle area. Now that was with the HTVRont brand tumbler. I picked another 40 ounce tumbler and sublimated it, and same situation with the seam. The seam was not perfect. Same situation in this tapered area. It was not perfect. However, with this brand of tumbler, I also got ghosting or lack of pressure in this area, which is opposite from the handle. So I just think that this one is probably a slightly different size, which it was when I measured it, than this version, so that it does not get as good a contact within the press, because the press is specifically made for exactly this size of 40 ounce tumbler. So I would recommend the HTVRont brand of tumblers for best results. Okay, now that we've made some tumblers and we have put this press to the test, let's give some pros and cons of this auto tumbler press. So let's talk about pros first. I've mentioned it a couple of times. The design on this one, I really like it. I love the inserts that you can just pull one out and insert another. I actually hope that they come out with other inserts to expand this press a little bit more so that it will press an even wider variety of tumblers and cups. So I am crossing my fingers that that happens. The inserts themselves, very easy to swap out, so it is easy to switch from one to the other. If you've ever used a traditional tumbler press, swapping out those heating elements can be cumbersome. Lots of screws, lots of work. This, in comparison, is super, super easy. All of the tests I did with the straight-sided insert, so the glass cup as well as the 20 ounce tumblers, turned out great. So it did a great job with these. I love that this has an adjustable pressure as well, so I could play with the time, the temperature, and the pressure to get those perfect results on my blanks. Overall, the size really isn't bad, and seriously, this is not heavy at all. So the overall dimensions, I did like those, and it was easy to operate. So what are the cons of this press? So needing to wrap the mat around the tumbler and put it in. For the first one, it was pretty easy once I got the hang of it. But if you're using this for multiple tumblers in a row, this mat gets extremely hot. And doing it for the second tumbler, wrapping this mat around there and sticking it in, even with heat-resistant gloves on, my hands were getting warm before I actually got everything into the press and pressed the button. So while it's easy to do, like it's easy to wrap the mat around, it's easy to put it in, doing it when this mat is 390 degrees or whatever temperature I used was a challenge. So just be careful with these mats. Realize just how hot they get. Be sure you have a heat resistant mat that you can put it on. Don't let these mats touch anything. And please, please, for your own safety, use heat resistant gloves. A really good quality pair comes with this machine. Use those when you are wrapping your tumblers with this hot mat and putting them in this machine. And then I do feel like it's a con that I got the best results with the HTVRont version of the 40-ounce tumbler. That means that I need to use their brand of 40-ounce tumblers with this machine for best results. I just didn't have good results, at least out of this second brand that I used. Now, could you find a brand through trial and error that is similar sizing to the HTVRont? Possibly, but just what I had on hand did not work as well as the HTVRont one did. And then the second con for the 40 ounce is I did not get a great press around those tabs where the handle is. I also didn't get a great press on this tapered area. I'm not counting that as big of a con because a lot of people don't even sublimate this area. They just leave it white. And I do think that with some trial and error with how I was wrapping it, I could get a much better look in this tapered area. But for around the handle, around those tabs, I'm just not sure how good I could get it to look, given that the press doesn't close all the way and it stops where those tabs are. So this area is left open in the press. For my final con, it is a drawback for this press that you can't do mugs in it or things with a handle. Perhaps they can develop a way to add those later, but currently I didn't see a way to do a mug in this. So traditionally, you could have a tumbler press and you could do tumblers and mugs in that press, but if you get this tumbler press and you want to do mugs, you will need a separate mug press or do your mugs in like a sublimation oven. So I do think that's a con, and this press just isn't as versatile with those handled and non-handled blanks. Okay, so who is this press for? I really do think that this is a good one for crafters who want to make various tumblers at home, especially the straight-sided version, just because it is so easy to swap these inserts out. I also think it's for you crafters that want to do the 40 ounce tumbler. Just keep in mind the cons that I mentioned earlier in this video. If you keep those in mind, I really think you're going to love the way this does 40 ounce tumblers. And then because it's so easy to operate, I just hit a button, it closes, it automatically opens when it's done. I don't have to monitor it while it's pressing. I do think it would be great for those of you just starting out with your small business and making tumblers and cups as well. So I do think it does a really good job. The only thing I would mention there is that for your business, you're probably going to be doing multiple ones over and over again. Be sure to wear those heat resistant gloves like I noted. Okay, so I am going to share a link to purchase this tumbler press in the description below this video. And I do have a coupon code right now. If you want to use it to save some money, be sure to grab that coupon code before it expires. Now, if you have any questions about anything we've covered, drop down in the comment section, ask away. If you liked this video and it helped you, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, head on over to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. I have videos just like this one every single week, and trust me, you don't want to miss any of those. So thank y'all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.